welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org. Consequence and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, for checking out the episode. Please do hit that subscribe button while you're hanging around. You get 3 new interviews sent to you every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Makes it a great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover those new ones. Of course, you can also grab us anywhere in podcast land, Spotify, Apple Podcast, NPR, WFPK.org, Consequence, or right here on YouTube for the video versions. Anywhere you get your podcast from, you can subscribe to Kyle Meredith with. And that's me, Kyle Meredith, today talking with Mark Gardner of the band Ride. They're back with an album called Interplay. This is their third album since reforming back in the 2010s. In fact, as it's been said, they've now been together longer in this second chapter than they were back in the 90s. We're going to talk all about the record, the recording of it, the atmospherics, the salutes or nods, I should say, that it gives back to some of their favorite groups of the 80s, like Tears for Fears and Depeche Mode, and a whole lot more. One of my all-time favorite artists. Let's jump into it. We're talking Interplay. It's Kyle Meredith with Mark Gardner of Ride.
Hi, you can hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
I'm okay. I am enjoying a rare respite from the tour. I have a day off today in Vancouver, so
Oh, nice.
it's I've instead of being on the bus from Denver to Vancouver, I flew yesterday just to kind of give myself a little bit of a reset break because me and the bus aren't the best friends. So I don't really sleep very well on it, and being in my 50s, I need my sleep now.
Yeah, I understand completely. You have those people who are just made for it, right? Willie Nelson still on the road at 90, not as much,
Yeah,
but just like you have people that do that, like they have no problem with it. And I'm okay with a little road trip around the country for a few days, but after that, yeah, no, I'm with you.
yeah. I mean, I've kind of got used to it now, in because we're into our second, sort of third weeks now on the bus. But the first week is horrendous because it's just, it's just not something you're used to at all again because you've just been sleeping normally. So anyway, but yeah, so I mean, it's kind of got easier, and I can sort of then see why people go on and on because if you just keep touring, and it just becomes your normality.
Mhm.
It's just the shock of coming from something that isn't that onto a bus, and it takes a bit of time to, and then for the first week you're just all over the shop basically. But anyway, that's enough of my moaning. Other than that, it's been really good. The show's been good, so
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And we'll roll right into this actually. Because what
mm,
uh we got to meet a few weeks ago, a couple weeks ago now in Philly. You guys were in Philly, and I thought, when you're on
that's right.
tour, what a funny little thing those little moments are, because we were joking about it backstage. Like, here's a noon show in front of a very noon crowd and a lot of radio people who have just
Yeah,
done a conference for a whole week and are, just done.
jaded. I feel like me after I've been on tour for a week. Yeah, no, I mean it is, and yeah, from my point of view, it's just quite a good. On that first week, it was just a good. I do actually like, despite them not sleeping, I do like the thing of playing all the time because it really plays the songs in. So
Mhm.
for me, and then we played pretty much I think all new songs, so it was it's been really good. I knew that would happen. America's amazing for that. American tours just to get played in, the songs so it becomes second nature. And I think we're doing that, and that felt really good, that show, because we'd had a few days prior to that, and then that's when it started to feel like it's becoming second nature now, and you're not having to think about it too much, which is good because we don't want to think too much. That's where things go wrong.
You got to feel it. Feel it.
Yeah, in a way, feel it and not have to think about it, and just then perform it in a way.
Yeah.
It's good when you get to that place.
Do you ever
Rehearsals don't really do it. You rehearse, but it's nothing like just doing it at gigs. It's like I don't know, there's something about gigs that make you really, um, yeah, just on it. Get on it, and the songs just get really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like, not that you have to be one band or the other, but there are some bands, it's like we've written the songs, we're going to play it like the album. But for Ride, for so
Mm.
much, atmosphere as you all put in there, like how often do you let those songs open up? I wouldn't call it jamming with you all, but there is that sense that,
Mm.
these songs can expand further than what they were written to be.
Yeah, I think they always do live because just the nature of live and different rooms and different sounds and sound systems. And I think, we do stay pretty structured with the new material, um, mostly. Um, so yeah, because we have some backing as well because we don't have a keyboard player with us and there's some synths going on, so we need to sort of stay in stay in sync with everything. But yeah, I mean, there's always an element of I think in a way the new songs take on their own life form, and the more they get played live, and yeah, it's usually then towards the end of the tour you think, God, I wish we could re-record them all now because it kind of things grow, the songs develop in front of people and audiences for sure. They become their own beast in a way.
Yeah, that'd be a really fun. I mean, bands talk about that. I don't know that.
Mm.
Surely somebody's done it, but I just can't name anybody off the top of my head. That'd be a really fun little experiment. Like, okay, here it is. This is the route we're going to take, and right after we get off the road, we're going to go back in and re-record them and see what it sounds
Yeah,
like. Like a
it's true.
Christmas
It's weird. I
EP.
mean, because it's always exactly. It's usually always the other way around. I mean, unless of course we do actually do some live recordings along the way, so sometimes those can actually be released. So live is real, and I like it when it's real in that sense. I mean, I do also love. I mean, obviously, I run my main business is a studio. I run a studio in Oxfordshire, Oxford Sound. So I kind of that I'm constantly mixing, mastering, recording, podcasting. Well, I do podcast production in there, so I do a lot of stuff in there. So that's always kind of I love that environment, and I love that creative environment and making things. So that always feels great. And that's what I mean. It's always then a bit of a shock to the system when you start taking the stuff out of the studio and you start playing it. But like I say, like they do start to kind of become their own something different in a way.
Yeah, that studio, which I think is quickly becoming legendary, but it being, the first time that Ride has done an album, in your studio. Like I hear
Yeah,
so much about how studios have changed, for especially a lot of young producers. It's all about the plugins, and it's not even about a
yeah.
studio a lot of the time. It's just about the laptop or whatever. But I get that sense that you found this middle ground. Like how do you keep the humanity in the machine?
Well, interestingly, I I purposely went almost a bit beyond the middle ground to create a more maybe old style studio in the sense that I've got a great console with a sidecar console, which are kind of the best of British consoles, an SSL and an Eve. I won't get too techy and boring because people fall asleep, but there's lots of valves involved. So I understand what digital brings, and it's an amazing. I'm not anti-digital in any way, and I really embraced it. I love CDs, but what I think kind of starts to get lost is valves, and it's just that sort of console and beautiful consoles which actually do incredible things to the music. I mean, there's a warmth, there's a width, there's a depth, there's a weight which comes with all of that sort of lovely valve stuff as it was in those old studios. I mean, those old studios, a lot of them couldn't run anymore because you have to leave those old mixing consoles on, and then the electricity bills are so high that I think that's what brought down a lot of the studios. But with what I got in there, and I worked alongside SSL to get the right thing. I don't have to leave it on, so it doesn't kind of kill me when it would still be on now. Some of those old studios when I'm not there with bills, but it does capture that they've created great consoles which have got it's all about the analog sound basically. So when I'm mastering, for example, I would say 80, 85, 90% of my process is just purely analog. And because I know that what people are sending me is coming from a computer. So when I bring that analog into it and then send it back, they're like, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And people hear that. So I mean, I just thought if I don't do something that really makes a difference, for people to come into a studio, for people to send me work to be that I work on in the studio, then it's pointless. I'm just finished because, as you said earlier, you know, people can do so much on their laptops in their bedroom. So I had to do something that made a big difference from that. You know what I mean? And because I did, and it was a huge leap of faith, a huge sort of roll of the dice in a way. It is working. Just
Yeah.
so you know, I mean, it's not working at the moment because I'm here in Vancouver, so I'm not there. But you know, and I think going back to the ride scenario, I think it's the first time we felt a home, you know, in studio. And you do feel at home in other studios, but you're always kind of aware of the clock ticking and you know, the money meter going up and up. So I think we were able to, after COVID, you know, the adversity of COVID, and after we'd also been through some pretty horrible stuff with an ex-manager who's kind of trying to take us to court on, you know, trying to make us his pension fund basically, even he's not doing anything. So there's a lot of pretty horrible stuff we went through, all the stuff you read about. And I think in a way then it brought us closer, and we had a sort of home-based type of studio for the first time where we could kind of just, you know, react to what was being thrown our way. And that stuff that was coming our way basically threatened the existence of the band. It wasn't sort of just sort of small fry. So I think when you come through that, and I think we had a sort of collective realization of like, when we just got together initially, we used to work like this, and it was all about music. And we just, you know, that was kind of how a lot of the first records and those songs were made. We were just in a room together at our art school sort of drama room, you know, just jamming and playing. And we were able to do that with this album in a way. We jammed a lot, we played a lot. We just, without thinking we've got to make an album, we knew we did, and that was in the back of our minds. But we had more time to do it, and certainly lots of parts of this album for me became great because I had some time personally to. It almost like when people have left and there's some great music that's there, then to then really think about top lines and turning what was some jams and great instrumentals into great songs. And I possibly wouldn't have had those moments. I mean, I certainly had that moment with, you know, with the engineer Richie, and with songs like Monaco. I had that moment with I Came to See the Wreck, which was actually before Richie was even engineering the session. That was when I was trying to engineer as well as be in the band. And I was sort of jumping between two rooms with some candles on in the live room. And it just, you know, just checking my levels and, you know, making sure that I thought I was capturing some good vocals with I Came to See the Wreck. And it was just kind of almost like a personal exorcism that time, of some pretty rough stuff that we'd all come through. And you know, it's like anything in life and sport. I think it's the tough stuff that, you know, when you can come back from that, it makes you stronger and makes you better. I know it's all a bit cliche, but there's reason why that is cliche, because it really does do that.
Yeah, you can hear it. I mean, I Came to See the Wreck. God, it's like I've heard you in a lot of your interviews talk about, you know, how that sort of looks back on a rough time in your own life, but man, it absolutely soars. Like the music in that just takes off. What is it you said you were hoping, or you could see it becoming your Blue Monday? Was that it? That quote right?
Oh yeah, or like yeah. I mean, in a way, I did. I mean, I wanted to release it as I would like to have been a single, although I don't really know how singles work anymore because it's so confusing. I mean, a single to me is something that you release, gets on the radio, which makes sense. We did that with, you know, so I'd think about Six Music, but there's lots of other ways singles are released, and it's pretty confusing for me. But I would have liked to have come back with that track in a way, because I just thought it was not really a single in that way. And as we did with Leave More Behind years ago, you know, but then we obviously had some more singly sounding tracks, which were great as well. So it was a real tough round of emails and stuff with management to sort of go, what do we do? But yeah, I think with a song like Wreck, yeah, I mean, it's certainly like, I did see it as like that, a kind of a Blue Monday, a darker thing. And I mean, yeah, for me, it's just me really talking about being pretty lost, really, and feeling part of a system that really broke down, which obviously was the sort of reflection on what went before for everybody, which is COVID. So you know, and just a lot of time in isolation, which I don't think does. It's quite nice for a while, but then I think we're all social creatures. You know, we all, as a human species, we all kind of survive because of you know, society and coexistence with people, not just on your own all the time. There's a lot of alone time in the studio, you know, during really dark period. So, which was good and bad, But I mean, that definitely is a reflection on feeling that I'm just kind of losing my mind here.
Yeah.
So, I think maybe people relate to that. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. It's always interesting for a songwriter, especially when you've got years behind you. You know, you've got over 30
Yeah.
years of songs that you're singing, and you have a song like this now, but in those moments in the past, like, do you find that you still connect in the same way to any of those earlier songs that you wrote? Like the who you were?
You
It's
kind of, yeah, sometimes. I mean, on the Nowhere tour, you do have a sort of weird connection back to it, and it's almost like you reconnect to it through the people that are in the room with you, kind of going back on that trip as well. And but then in another way, the songs, like I said earlier, they almost sort of become something a little bit different now to the songs we recorded, back in the 90s. I think, especially with Nowhere, so it sort of almost becomes quite present in a way. You're not always, doesn't feel past because it's happening here and now, and a lot of people are still really appreciating that. So, but yeah, I mean, I do feel a stronger connection to Interplay songs now we're touring than the old songs. Honestly, because it just feels something that is more recent to me, and it's more like in the here and now for me. So when you play some of the old songs, it's a little trip back, and it's nice, but I don't feel, I just do feel more connected, yeah, with the what is happening around us at the moment, and that is the Interplay album for sure. Yeah.
and I know it's been talked about a little bit, like even the jumping between the past and the present, because it's been talked a lot
It's
about,
hard.
yeah, well, somebody brought up,
Yeah.
maybe it was even the original press releases, like there was even a little bit of the influence of the 80s pop or something in there, which I feel like's probably been painted more than maybe it actually was. But I,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
I
hear
think,
those
yeah, I think so.
moments. Yeah, like hearing you all talk about it, you've talked about Depeche Mode and Tears,
Mm.
but when I got that in my head, and this is where I took things further than I'm certain they intended to be, because Sunshine Chaser, is that the name of the song? Sunshine Chaser?
Sunrise Chaser, yeah.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
Sunrise Chaser,
It's
yeah.
Sunrise Chaser.
Yeah.
Like, there's a melody there that's really close to that song Broken Wings, the 80s like cheesy pop ballad. And
Oh yeah, I like Broken Wings. Yeah, take
yeah,
these broken wings. Yeah, what? Yeah, maybe. I
it's
mean,
it.
again, I love Summer Shakespeare. We haven't played it yet live, but that was one that because we've got a lot that we could play, and we're trying to balance it. But yeah, I hear that. I mean, I think it's more. There was something comforting, um, like I say, when we went through that kind of feeling of that our existence was being threatened, and are we going to be able to make another record? I think there was something comforting about tapping back to how we felt maybe in that time before we made our first record, and those were certainly records that we were listening to. I mean, I love Tears for Fears in the 80s. It's that sort of reminds you of the teenage you and why you wanted to be in a band in the first place, to hear those songs again. Depeche Mode have never gone away from me. They've always just been there and just brilliant. And I saw them recently a few months ago. So yeah, and I guess as well that's World in My Eyes is something. When we were talking about the mix of I Came to See the Wreck, that was a reference point for sure. A song like that,
Yeah.
and I don't see why I aim with certain things. I want to aim big in a way. I'm not not saying we want to suddenly be a stadium band, but I mean I want this to do well. Sort of ambitious with that, because then we can continue to do it. I mean, and if it's on the cusp. It's hard. It's hard for bands to tour now, so you need some things to kind of keep moving up a little bit. To still be able to do it. Because I mean, I don't think unless you're Ed Sheeran's, and obviously, which is a bit like reflected in society. It's like seems to be the rich or the very few at the top just get richer and bigger, and and then there's a whole mid section where it's a struggle, for everybody, and for many bands, it's difficult. So it's yeah, we need it to do something, to be able to continue to come and play. Otherwise, we won't be able to do it. So
Yeah.
it's like as simple as that, really.
Right. And
And we that's our reality. It's not like we're not comfortable in any way. And I mean, it certainly keeps you hungry, and it certainly makes you. There's no room for complacency with us, or because like I say, it's always it's tight, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. That makes a lot of sense. Not that it didn't make sense at the time,
Mm.
but when Peace Sign came out, my first thought was, oh, wow, this is an anthem. This is big. This is a stadium song. This is something that you fill,
Yeah,
the festival
I
crowd
think
with.
so. I think so, man, because obviously we have been playing a lot of bigger festivals, and so maybe that is it's partly in. I mean, when we wrote those songs, I mean that just came from one of the jams again. That was so not in our minds, but I think you probably get better in a way at crafting songs, and because of you kind of know what works well between you as a unit, and how the dynamics between you, and how we can work up songs, and that one for sure. I think Peace Sign, yeah, it was strange because I think it was written, just after the Ukraine invasion from Russia, and then of course, with obviously what's going on in Israel, and it's just, yeah, just the world is mad. It's like it seems really, and then you sort of think, and actually, Peace Sign was actually about it was I forget his name now, the mountaineer guy, French guy.
Oh, right, right,
Um,
right. I don't know the
and the
name,
Alp,
but I know you're
it's
talking
the
about.
Alp, it's
Yeah.
the Alpinist. Yeah, it was from. I mean, Andy had seen the Alpinist, and then we all watched it, and it blew us away. The documentary, and he flashes the peace sign sort of here before he goes and climbs these like crazy rocks. I mean, I won't. I'm not going to do a spoiler because if you haven't seen it, the Alpinist is one of those incredible movies. It's like up there with me, like Man on Wire,
Mhm.
where and there's a French connection there, where people just do really out there things, and so and there are reasons for it. But yeah, so that was kind of where it was at. But then as you just sort of feel, and obviously when I'm back in England, I'm quite tuned into news quite a lot. However, I've learned to have to turn it off a bit more at times now because it's just quite depressing.
Mhm.
That yeah, you just think, well, actually, it's not a bad um, thing to try and be promoting again. It's just more people peace sign. It's like a simple sign, and if more people were, around the world could just be thinking peace sign. I know it sounds a bit hippie or whatever, but the world needs that now. More peace, less war, for sure.
Even
Because
if it's
the
just
war,
not subliminal, but just by it is.
yeah,
It's the thought that just kind of the seed, right? The seed that's right there.
exactly, yeah, exactly. I mean, because it's like, what are these conflicts really achieving them for anyway? It's just ridiculous. It's nothing in the end. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, we're so advanced now, technology in so many ways, and yet, we're still sort of Shakespearean in the sense that
Right.
we're still poisoning and killing each other, and all that sort of stuff is still really present. We don't
And
we
for
don't
what?
seem to be able to move on for that. Yeah, exactly. For what?
Yeah.
It's frightening. And I mean, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
we'll
right.
not get too deep on that one, but we all know that. I mean, I believe in it's the people that I think most people are in the same boat with that, but obviously it's the people in power. It gets messed up.
Yeah. Sort of similar though,
Very.
as going for the title, Stay Free. Um, just
Yeah.
what a pretty it almost feels simple, in comparison to some of the record.
Mm.
I haven't heard much about that one, but it just naturally almost sets itself apart. Not in a way that feels disjointed, almost as I don't
Yeah.
know, a respite, I guess. What's the story behind that one?
So unfortunately, I can't exactly tell you that in its entirety because that's an Andy track.
Uh-huh.
So I know that we did do a talk Mark Hollis tribute and I remember talking to Andy. We did the Rainbow, and we did another track, and it's beautiful and airy, these songs. And I think there was a little bit of that involved in the feeling of how little was on some of those tracks. And I think it did make a bit of an impression on Andy at the time because we did a lovely version of the Rainbow, and that's a very empty kind of sounding track. Um, and I think that is a bit of. I mean, I might be completely wrong, but I hear that as a bit of an influence with that song because I like I say I think it reminded us how little you can have, but how rich it sounds. With less is more completely. So and yeah, I mean, I beyond that, I can't really comment
Oh,
because, like I say, it's one of Andy's gems. That one, so
yeah, it's a really
I wouldn't
nice one.
want to.
Right, it's a really nice one in there. But outside of, so outside of the
Mm,
band though, speaking of yours, like here you are, the Ride album
mm.
comes out and a Shoreline Dream drops a song, Everything Turns, and you already
Yeah,
have music out in the world. It just
yeah.
like when creating is like
That
breathing. That's
came.
how I feel from you.
Well, I'm just a really busy guy, to be honest with you, and creativity is a part of that. I mean, and and I feel creative with all the mixing I'm doing and mastering in a way, yeah. And that's it's a different kind of approach because that really works on me coming fresh to music in a way and just fine tweaking and yeah, and tuning in that way. But I mean, certainly Ryan and I don't know, we got connected I think through Shauna at Shameless Promotions quite a while ago, and Ryan then I thought yeah I'd heard bits and pieces he'd done, and he started to send me it's just said just send me songs that you're making, and I'll see if anything really I can really connect with something. And then that instrumental came through probably, I mean, a good 10 months ago now. It's quite a while ago. And I totally connected with it. I just thought I love that track particularly. So let me try and do something with that vocally. And I was actually listening at the time quite a lot to I love a song I come back to a lot is that Don't Give Up, the Gabriel and Kate Bush song. It's so beautiful. And I used it to test speakers and um, just interfaces and stuff in the studio. I kind of it's a song I come back to because I think actually sonically it's really beautiful. So it did inform the lyric a bit because the lyric a little bit is sort of like I used to feel wanted. I used to feel strong. That the feeling that technology is sort of taken over and putting people out of work and do you still feel like dancing when everybody's sort of moved on and everyone's gone? It's kind of a bit like you're left in another time a bit, that a lot of people I think are just feeling a little bit like, whoa, what do we do now? It's like you're feeling like a bit of a spare part. So that was kind of and that the system seems to be listening to us because it's like everybody keeps commenting. I was just talking about something the other day, then I get an advert on my it's like so it's like the system listens, it's like it's kind of a bit of that sort of paranoia,
Hmm.
technology paranoia involved in that one. But yeah, it came through really well. And also Ryan actually encouraged me to sort of film myself singing it so that he then put me into the video a bit. I mean, it was all remote, but he did a great job with that. And I've not I've not sort of appeared on a ride video for quite a while. So it was sort of thought, yeah, I'll do that again. Why not? I can be on a video again. That's fine. As long as it's fuzzy.
It's a cool track.
So yeah, yeah, it's good. It came good. And there's a couple of others which that I ended up working on that album as well, which will become evident soon as well. Yeah.
Have you heard that new Peter Gabriel album that came out last year, December?
I haven't. No, I haven't. No, I didn't even know there was one, to be honest with you. And I'm not like, just because it's just certain things, tracks I just tap back into. And I mean, I'm a huge Kate Bush fan. And that little period of Peter Gabriel, a little time, then I just loved. And that collaboration I thought was beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, but no, I haven't. Is it any good?
It's great. It finds him
Yeah.
in a form that I have. Of course, he hasn't put out an actual album of original material probably 20 years before that, but he released a single
Oh, I didn't
on,
realize it had been that long. Yeah.
yeah, he
I
released
didn't
a
even realize it
single,
had been that long. Yeah.
yeah, all year long on the full moon of every month, a new single on the full moon of every month or new moon or something like that
Oh,
anyway. But
that's pretty cool.
yeah, and ended in December. And it's a great album. But it's just, I mean, we're in a rich period of artists from the 80s and into the late 80s, early 90s, like your era of Depeche Mode, fantastic record they put out, the Memento Mori. And
Yeah.
I was just thinking though,
Yeah.
it's like the has new music and Howard Jones keeps putting out good stuff. And I know these aren't the same stuff, but the era and it's so quality
Sure.
in ways that I don't find from the generation before. And there's still plenty of great 70s
That's
artists putting out
interesting.
music too, but I find more in the 80s, or maybe I'm just in tune with it. I don't know, but there's
Yeah, I mean,
something really
and
good.
perhaps people start to feel, yeah, and perhaps people are starting to feel that if you're gonna, it's becoming so difficult to tour and to operate with music, and the money's sort of gone. So maybe people sort of feel a little bit that you just want to leave something, you know, amazing there, and it might make people, like I say, less complacent, more hungry again, just to do something of real quality, because it might be the last thing people do. And you know, and I'm not saying speaking for other people, but I always sort of feel I never know with Riot this could be a lost album. I just don't know because it's like there's no, you know what I mean? There's no sort of steady career path with this. It's just
Right.
you just do not know. And I kind of always approach shows like it might be my last, and you just don't know. And I think that's the point. I mean, and I would say from my own point of view now, I was really happy with how Interplay came out. And I've said it a few times, I'm not planning on dying just yet, but in a way, I would be happy in the sense that I feel we hit real heights on this album. And I think we did with the previous two albums and all across all albums, but there's always stuff that niggles me with stuff we've done before. But with this album, I thought we really hit some high points, and it almost sort of vindicated why we came back together in 2015. You know, because I knew the chemistry was sort of always felt the chemistry has always been great between us as a sort of creative entity, and if anything, even better now, because there's also it's a lot easier as well for Steve and Loz to. Like I said, they're all very onto their doors and stuff now. I think it was trickier for them in the 90s to put their songs and creativity ideas across because just by nature, me and Andy were the guys with acoustic guitars and voices. So I think now it's a lot more of an even spread, and that's why Interplay is a perfect title for this record because those guys are great songwriters as well and are really kind of contributing in a you know in that way in a huge way. And I think that just makes it more interesting again and stronger as a result. It's not so yeah. I think it's a sort of weird evolution, but it's definitely one. But yeah, and that's interesting to hear. Like you're saying that, I mean, about quality control is going up in that way, and I think and again, maybe also, I think everybody went through a crazy sort of strange time with COVID, so I think maybe also that sort of gave people a lot of reflection time. I don't know, to sort of go, if we're going to do something again, it's got to be great in case we're in another pandemic or whatever. I don't know.
Well, you all certainly
Sort of
did
threw
it. I mean,
everybody off, I think.
yeah, Interplay is so good. I selfishly just hope you guys get off the road and go back into the studio and make more music because what the three albums that you've done in this chapter two has been some of my favorite music, over this past 10 years. It seriously, I'm
That's
so
brilliant to
happy that you
hear.
all are doing
I mean,
this.
I'm always in the studio. I am always in the studio, so the door's always open, obviously, with the guys. So I'm sure it could happen more. Like I say, it's just making the economics work of touring and being able to kind of keep doing that is the tricky part. But I think there's we're all giving it a good go.
Yeah, right on. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about it today. Seriously, it's been a real pleasure, and I hope
It's
to
a
see more
pleasure.
shows out on this tour.
That's great. Yeah, thank you very much for all the good vibes, and it's a pleasure speaking to you.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.